Welcome to this special meeting of the Gainesville City Commission, a joint meeting with the Utility Advisory Board. And we want to welcome special guest, Representative Yvonne Henson, who is used to being on this dais, and we're pleased to have you back with us. I really appreciate you being here. We'll follow the agenda here. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we have the adoption of the agenda.
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second to adopt the City Commission agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda for the commission. Mr. Chair.
I'd like to call our meeting to order. I'd like to have a motion to adopt our agenda. So moved. The second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously.
All right, very good. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate everyone being a part of the evening and giving up part of your Friday evening. We will not waste a bunch of time with small talk. The purpose to be here is so that we could talk to each other about the issue, and so that the Utility Advisory Board could talk specifically, and so that we could talk to each other and hear from you all. And I'm going to ask Chair Jacobson to tell us what the impetus for asking for the meeting in the first place was, and then I'll tell you about my impetus for wanting to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you. We had written a letter, or I had written a letter on behalf of the board to our local representatives, just asking a bunch of questions, because the original bill that was proposed was just a general outline, basically taking the definition of the Utility Advisory Board and then crossing out City Commission and putting in the governor. Many unanswered questions. If we suddenly became this board, which obviously is not going to happen, we'd have so many questions. What is this board about? Can we issue bonds? Can we instruct the city to issue bonds? Can we sell GRU? Are we here to cut rates? All just basic functional questions. Our plan was at our last meeting was to have the updated version of this bill, and we could respond to that. Because the new version looked exactly like the old version, we had nothing to say. Jason Foltz, our vice chair, came up with this idea of this meeting, put it forward, and we said, sure, it's good. It's time for everyone to talk. So that's kind of how we got here.
Very good. I would say I got the email from the Utility Advisory Board after their meeting last week, and my first thought was, we don't need to do this. I mean, there's really no time to get it before the end of session. And then I slept on it and thought, no, we absolutely do need to talk to each other about what it is. This is part of our job. This is representing the people of Gainesville and of the broader service area, and trying to figure out how this works going forward. And toward that end, I invited the legislative delegation, and I appreciate Representative Henson for being here with us to hear from you all. We have gotten some emails already that are part of the public record, and we look forward to hearing from everyone this evening. So with that said, when it's time for public comment, I'll give you all a heads up now. What we try to do is to get everyone to sign up with a sign-in card, and just let us know who you are so we can create an order for who speaks. And it's just first come, first serve. And when you're called up to the lectern, there's a light system there. If the green light is on, you've got 2 minutes, so plenty of time. When the light turns yellow, you got a minute left, so think about wrapping up. And when it turns red, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and wrap up. That's our system. Everybody gets 3 minutes. I'm not going to cut you off in mid-sentence. We're pretty reasonable about it. I would like to hear from folks up here and any introductory thoughts that you might have. And Representative Henson, if you have any thoughts on it, I'd love to hear from you as well. The floor is yours anytime you want it.
Thank you.
So when we don't often have a crowded dais up here, usually it's 7 for whatever the body is. Get the light closest to you and push it, and I will try to call on the right person for it. The bill for it, and if I get it wrong, then correct me. The mics, I think, are all hot anyway, so just be aware. The bill before us, I will tell you, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It has nothing to do, I mean, I have personal feelings about it, obviously. But how it's implemented, I couldn't tell you. I expressed that concern to Representative Clemens, and he told me it'd be fine, don't worry about it. I do worry about it, and I told him then, as I will tell you all now, that it's my job to worry about it because we, the City Commission, were hired to worry about such things. I've heard some ideas about it that are not accurate, that it will lower rates. Nothing in there that says it's going to lower rates. And I will tell you what I probably should have been saying more often is that I would be the most popular guy in Gainesville if I could lower your rate responsibly. If I could give you a low bill, I would love to give you a low bill. But our staff makes a pretty darn good case that lowering your bills just to lower your bills to be popular is a really bad idea. That we have a utility to run and we need to run it responsibly. Because we've done that, we have investment grade utility bonds. We are told by our bond counsel at Holland and Knight, which is a pretty reputable law firm, that if not the most reputable law firm in the state, that there are many questions that they have about this bill, and those questions are not answered in the latest version of the bill. They're simply not. That means that the folks who buy bonds from us are going to be nervous, realistically. That means when we have to borrow money, which by the way we do regularly, and so does every other utility, they're likely to charge more money to buy our bonds. That means that's going to be passed on in your bills more than likely. That could be incorrect, but that's what the odds are. Those are some of the realities of the bill as it is written. And by the way, the bill was a draft that got passed around to some media and got leaked a few times. But the version of the bill as it exists today did not get leaked. There were changes made to it, and it got filed on Monday. Monday. It's a local bill. Local bills generally are supposed to be non-controversial and filed before the session starts. But if you have a supermajority, you can change the rules. And that appears to be the way it's going. I don't think anybody is trying to do anything wrong. I just think it got done sloppy. And when I've expressed those concerns and others have expressed those concerns, we've been told, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. I've seen other legislation that we've seen done sloppy and seen really scary results from it. That's where I'm coming from on all this. That's pretty much what I have to say about it, unless we have other specific questions. I don't see any lights right now, but if you all have something you'd like to add, this would be a good time to do it before we go for the first round of comments from the people. Vice Chair Fultz.
So I guess, I did have some comments prepared that I hope to share with our legislative delegation. I was hoping more than just Representative Hinson would be here tonight. Barring that,
Maybe watching.
I hope so. And in fact, in my mind, this should have been a meeting where we had nameplates sitting up here for every one of them with seats sitting empty behind them for cameras to see, because it's absolutely shameful and disrespectful to me that people that supposedly represent this community would pass a bill with such ramifications outside of the sunshine, outside of accountability, in a place more than 2 hours away. And then when folks go to make that trip and talk about it, are given 30 seconds. It's one of the most shameful, disrespectful things I've ever seen. And it's a high bar with this legislature, I'm going to say. So I have a lot to say to the delegation, and I actually have some suggestions that I thought, I thought that the former chair of this body Wes Wheeler put forward some proposed amendments that, to me, were things that would be pretty amenable to a lot of people in this community, including people who are steam coming out of their ears about GRU. The idea that we should maintain local control of this utility, whether that looks like it does now for folks that support that, whether that looks like an independent board that's elected by ratepayers in this utility. There are a lot of different variations that could have been done with this rather than just crossing out city commission and replacing it with Governor DeSantis. So anyway, I would love to have had that conversation with the rest of our delegation. We have tried, as Chair Jacobson mentioned, we've tried multiple times reaching out to the delegation. I've personally called each of their offices and said, hi, I'm the vice chair of this board that is the closest thing to what you're proposing in this legislation. I'd love to talk with you and tell you a little bit about my experience on this board, questions we have, that sort of thing. Crickets, nothing, not even a return phone call, anything. So barring being able to have that conversation, I guess what I'm left with is just some questions for the folks that are here tonight. I'd love to hear from the representative, and thank you again for being here. If you foresee any sort of legislative options that remain to us, and barring that from the city, what our legal options are. And I'm thinking everything possible, including, I'm not a lawyer, but to me, Representative Clemens has made slanderous, actual lies in the public media repeatedly about this utility and should be held to account for it. So those are my questions, legislative options and legal options that I'd love to hear about from folks that can speak to that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Fultz. And is this Commissioner Book?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Chair Jacobson. I actually wanted to make sure that I defer to the state representative. If she wants to say something, would prefer to hear from us first. But if you want to, you certainly go before me, ma'am.
Can I just say that I want to listen? It's a local matter. I'm fighting this fight because I've seen it for 10 years. I mean, it didn't just begin. It began in 2012, I know, and maybe before that, when I became a commissioner. It's not like this just began. That's why I know there is a dark side to it. I know that. I've been to Tallahassee as a commissioner twice to fight this same kind of legislation from these same legislators. So there is a dark side to it, and I'm not sure what it is, but it exists. You asked me about legislative. I have trouble getting my own legislation. So I did file 2 amendments, one on behalf of some constituents. Quite a few organizations, League of Women Voters are represented, Sierra Club. And I will also tell you I've received hundreds of emails, stop the GRU takeover. So I'm surprised this room isn't, absolutely filled, considering how many people have sent me emails, stop the GRU takeover. So they want it to be local, and I'm hoping many of these people are voting in their district. Because that's probably what's going to stop the GRU takeover, their constituents. And if their constituents aren't writing them like they're writing me, then we have a problem. The 2 amendments, were voted down. This is par for the course. When it hits the floor, they're going to vote lock and step together. I'm thinking what could be done short of getting a very stubborn governor to veto it? Nothing. Except legal consequences. There you go.
Thank you, Representative. I want to let you know, too, the reason that we picked 6 o'clock on a Friday is because, generally speaking, session does not meet on Fridays. The legislature during session doesn't have things going on Fridays, certainly not afternoon. And my thought was this gives plenty of time for folks to be back in district.
So we do meet on Fridays, but we gabbled out yesterday, so there's plenty of time.
Gotcha. Okay. I I picked 6 o'clock because I wanted to give working folks an opportunity to be able to come speak their mind should they choose to do that. So that's why we are here the way and time we are. And go ahead, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair. Did you want me to conclude? I just wanted to make sure that our state representative got kind of first crack at speaking. It's always important. We're the local city commission, the local UAB, but you also recognize that we work in collaboration with the state representatives, and those are the folks that we also report to. Just a couple of comments. I thought that the letter that the Chair Jacobson did on April 5th, had a list of potential goals, which I thought were exactly some of the things we've been working on. And for example, he wrote list of potential goals for the UA, for what we would do in moving forward with the utility was to minimize rates, pay down GRU debt, reduce or eliminate the general fund transfer, maintain the current quality of service. And those are goals actually we've been seeking to do for the last 3 months. And I would actually probably make the statement that clearly we would want to do those going back many, many years, but a few of us are very new to the commission, specifically 3 of us, and the mayor is new in his role as the mayor. So I felt that the letter in and of itself was very good, and I did want to make sure that for the record they know. I also actually sent a letter as a commissioner to the state. It was about the same time. The letter from UAB was on April 5th, and I had sent a letter on April 4th. It's in the record, and it's public record. I'm not going to bore anybody here, with reading it. I'll just say a couple of key points of that was I did agree that the city had significant financial burden. Nobody disagrees with that. That's an objective fact. I also agreed that as a commission body, that we are accountable for that the second we take office, right? This is not a look back or look forward. This is when you're sitting here, you take on what you have, and we have to deal with that. And I feel like we took some immediate and significant actions, which were positive. Some of the actions that I highlighted back then on April 4th, and that's important for us to know, is the city manager and the general manager took a zero-based budgeting approach. For those who know budgeting, that is a significant way to start from the ground up. We also went to a 1-year as opposed to a 2-year budget. That means that we recognize we have financial difficulties, and we're going to start with what's in front of us. We've already talked about the dramatic reduction that the city commission voted as a whole to the tune of 18 million plus. And this is going to be painful for the city. So it discussed that in the letter, and that we were committing to a drastic reduction, and we voted on that as a body. We already have a strategic hiring freeze, and the city manager has told us we have in excess of 50 line positions. Not line, I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly. 50 positions that are vacant, that are frozen right now. Think about the impact from a service perspective into those people. That's dramatic. Review at the time of a solar contract, and we did that, and we went back to our state representatives. And then it said this statement: both the city manager and the GRU manager are working to identify every potential efficiency and cost-cutting measure, and have asked for feedback from all members of the organization. So these are significant. These are some of the things that were in the letter. I asked for 1 fiscal year to basically give us a chance to respond to JLAC. And if in a fiscal year we can't make things that meet the state criteria, right, Representative Hinson, then maybe we just haven't done what we need to do. So I asked for a 1 fiscal year ability to allow us to do what JLAC was demanding, and that was basically the gist of the letter. So I just wanted the people here to know, Mr. Jacobson, I felt like the goals that the UAB outlined were what I would say accurate goals, ethical goals, and attainable goals, and and I felt like we aligned, and certainly some of my letter aligned with that also. So those are just some of the comments I have, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Chair, and I conclude.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Chestnut.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For over 100 years, you, the people, have owned this system. You, the people. And you, the people, should have the voice in what happens to it in determining its destiny. If there are changes that need to be made that people don't agree with, that should be done by a referendum so that you have the opportunity to vote it up or down. We inherited a system, And this will be the first year that all 7 of these commissioners will have the opportunity to try to fix it. We take that responsibility seriously, and in doing so, we have reduced, I rounded up the number, Commissioner, to 19 million. We have moved to reduce the transfer to by $19 million. So hundreds of millions of dollars over the next 10 years will be earmarked to try to reduce the debt. That will come out to about $315 million that we will pay to pay down the debt that we inherited. Now, transfer of funds by a government is not, by a publicly owned utility, it's not unusual. That's what happens. Because the public utility, for them to give back to the people that they represent, that is how you do it. So I would say, I appreciate all of you being here, but when you leave here tonight and tomorrow, I want you to write the governor to veto this bill. Start it now. But let's not stop with Gainesville, because there are 37 other utilities in the state of Florida that are owned by the public. So I want you to call your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, have them also write to the governor to veto this bill. He needs to see a campaign not just in Gainesville, because this doesn't affect just Gainesville. This has implications for all 36 other utilities across the state. And I won't get to the issue of democracy and having a voice and not being silenced. So we can't sit back. We cannot sit back. Your voice is most important, most important. So start tomorrow. All of you are excellent letter writers. I can look at your faces and tell. I know you are. Start your campaign, not just with you, but with your friends across the state of Florida. Let's have letters from Key West to Pensacola to the governor's office.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Commissioner Eastman.
Thank you. Thank you for Commissioner Chestnut for highlighting how much bigger this is. I mean, I came in, I'm a new commissioner, and I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to make sure we had safer roads so that kids like my daughter would be able to get to school, build some homes, make sure that more people could find housing within our community. Typical city stuff, right? Just trying to make our city a better place. And here we find ourselves in something that I find completely unprecedented. And I think like Commissioner Book, we tried to approach this as though this was a good faith discussion, right? We said we were going to cut our debt by $315 million, the largest cut in our city's history, 3 times the Great Recession cuts. These aren't easy votes. These are hard votes. And we are now dealing with the ramifications of that. We are sitting down with staff talking about what that means on the ground. These are big. These are heavy. We've done all this. We believed in good faith that when Representative Clemens and when these other state leaders said they cared about the debt of GRU, they cared about our ratepayers, that they were saying that in good faith. And I think after the fact that we have done all of these things, that we have moved forward with everything we've been asked, we opened up the Origis contract. We opened up everything that was asked for us by JLAC. And we are still sitting here. When Commissioner Ward went up to Tallahassee, and he was given 30 seconds to speak, and a number of questions were asked, they said things like, what has the city done to reduce debt? And I remember Representative Clemens said nothing, ignoring the fact that we've cut $233 million from our debt since 2015. Said that we've taken, it was $100 million that the claims we have taken from the utility than it's earned. Last week was $65 million. I don't know what it'll be next week. It'll be $250 million. Fact is, we don't take more money from the utility than we spend. That's not in any of our documentation anywhere. It is a made-up statistic. This has been a campaign of moving the goalposts on us, saying one thing and moving it along. And what was being forced upon our community, to me, is I mean, it's clearly unprecedented. When I go through, as though this is just a typical authority board, there is not a single utility authority that I can find in the United States of America that is appointed by a government that has nothing to do with the government that it is within. I can't find any government, period. I can't think of any state where the federal government appoints people to take over half of that state government, where the state appoints people to take over half of any municipal government. I think the closest thing I can find is Reconstruction, when they started appointing military governors to things. That's the closest I can find in American history. As you look at bonds, almost every other utility authority has some protection against an authority board just taking out debt against the city, because every dollar this authority takes out is against this building, it's against our police department, it's against our fire department, it's against every piece of land this city owns. You go to Orlando, you look at JEA, you look at Fort Pierce, the city commission has some oversight of that. We have zero under this. Rates. If you look at Fort Pierce, you look at JEA, they get to at least have some control over not doubling the rates. This board can double the rates on you tomorrow, and there's nothing that the residents can do about it. In Fort Pierce, a supermajority can overrule any major projects. This has nothing of that. They could build another biomass plant for all they want. They could put a coal plant anywhere they want to. They could do anything they wanted to. And there's nothing we could do. This is not just taking our voice away in terms of the governor appointment. This is taking our voice away in a way that even if I were appointing the board, I would feel very uncomfortable with. Because even people that we appoint that we feel comfortable with on the front end, you don't know what they're going to do later. You don't know the ethics that they will have. You don't know if there's corruption. You won't know any of that. The governor can't even remove people if they are doing things, so long as it's not on the level of illegality. The governor can't remove people, much less anyone in the audience or anyone up here. It is completely unprecedented, and it won't just stop with Gainesville. I am convinced that all the good faith discussions that we have had and the fact that this is still moving forward, the goal of this no longer is to actually help the ratepayers in the city of Gainesville, which I tried to assume the best out of this whole thing and say maybe that is where this is going, but this seems like a structure that is designed to fail. This is not a structure that is designed to work, and it's very frustrating. I wanted to just run a city. That is what I ran for. That is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a good city, and instead I'm sitting here just trying to make sure how do we mitigate the pain that my constituents will feel, and it's very frustrating.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair Jacobson.
Thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Book's comments. When I wrote down those goals, I totally agree. That should be all the goals. My concern is this new board can just pick one of them. Oh, I want to minimize rates. Let's just sell the utility. Well, we'll bring FP&L and won't rates be great? Yeah, and I'm not a politician, so I apologize if I say anything inappropriate, but cutting
You're easier saying it than
15, 17 million out of the city's budget, which the city commission's already done, that's going to mean jobs, that's going to mean services. If the GFT is completely eliminated, people can disagree, all parks are gone, recreation's gone, social services are gone, part of the police department, part of the fire department. That's just what happens. That's the good scenario. If they sell GRU, we're still going to be left with $1.5 billion worth of debt. The city will be bankrupt. I mean, it's I hate to be that doom and gloom, but we don't know these people. The other point I want to make, as Vice Chair Fultz said, we're a pretty good approximation of this board. We're a volunteer board. I've spent hundreds of hours in these meetings, hundreds of hours outside these meetings. We're volunteer part-time people, which is exactly what this new board is going to be. No support staff, making major decisions. That's just, the intended, and I don't like to be too suspicious, but definitely the unintended consequence of this board, to Commissioner Eastman's point, to be able to issue bonds on behalf of the city, whatever choice they're making, this is very scary stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Willits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Vice Chair Fultz mentioning the claims that we've been hearing from Tallahassee. Some of that has been about bankruptcy, claiming that GRU is on some edge of bankruptcy. And we know that our bond rating clearly suggests that that's just completely false. And when false things get repeated at some point, it starts to sound, or it appears to be an actual lie. And when lies come out of the mouths of elected people in Tallahassee, we know that it's just at that point. It's not about truth. It's about some sort of an agenda. It's odd because in this bill it describes that this new authority would not be able to make any decisions outside of basic kind of dollars and cents, finances. It says can't do anything ideological, can't do anything political, can't do anything that is basically value based. And when I was digging through this bill and I came to it, and I was digging through it this week, and then last night we on this commission we again said that we were going forward with the Origis contract to build to allow them to build a solar farm. And when we did that, it wasn't just that we were going to go forward with the contract, but we added on to it that we did not want in the future commissions to consider additional solar plant on close by land that had been the original site, because it was too close to historical African American cemeteries, kind of a rural community. And in this Florida, in this governor's Florida, in this legislature's Florida, that decision would be called ideological. So, and let's be real, that's exactly what it would be called. They would call it critical race theory or anything, just acknowledging and setting some sort of a priority. It would absolutely be called ideological. And this bill says that new authority can't make any decision with those kind of factors in there. And everyone here knows, and everyone in the city of Gainesville knows, we make decisions ideologically. We're elected, right? We have opinions. We form coalitions of people. We argue. We debate. And so, people say GRU is just a utility. It's there's nothing else involved in it. It's just dollars and cents. We know it's not. We put our values into GRU. We put the idea of local control, of democracy, of treating our workers very well, of union, of labor, of organized labor, of us, the bosses, negotiating with our labor unions. That's arguably ideological. Those are the values that have developed over decades in this town, in this city, not just the 3 or 4 months I've been here. So that's something that stuck out to me that I think is perhaps lost on some people, but I hope you will notice that. And they could even say that our community's desire, commitment, and record of our local preference for steady progress towards a renewable energy can just be dismissed as, oh, that's just ideological, as if the reasons we do it aren't literally science and probably ethics and morals of the world we are leaving to our children and our children's children. So that's, again, that is, it's sort of, it's very disturbing. I've heard a lot of feedback on this bill from the residents and neighbors of Gainesville, people who absolutely disagree with me on some very important issues and disagree with perhaps the majority of this commission on decisions, and will badmouth me, in an email. And in the same email say, and by the way, keep GRU local, keep it up, keep fighting. I'm so glad you're there fighting. And it's emotionally, it kind of throws you for a little whiplash. But I think that speaks to the ability, actually, of our residents and our voters to branch divides of ideology and identity, and to have a common identity as we live in Gainesville. It is our utility, and we're going to hold the commissioners responsible. We're going to vote for them. We're going to communicate. We're going to argue with them. We're going to, we're going to spend our 3 minutes at every 2 weeks at a city commission meeting. I don't know that this new authority would allow 3 minutes every 2 weeks for public comment. I highly doubt they will. Commissioner Eastman, I'm glad you brought up that that you kind of haven't seen this version of a governor controlling. There's an example that I do that is somewhat similar, and it's post-Great Recession in Michigan, laws changed and they had emergency managers of cities. And that was the state government appointing those. And that may sound old and you don't know the consequences of it, and okay, I guess their finances needed special management by the state. But the consequence of that everyone does remember or should remember is that emergency managers in Flint, Michigan didn't actually know their utility, didn't know the chemistry, didn't know the science, didn't know their system, made a decision on changing a water source, and it ate up their pipes and lead poisoning of hundreds of thousands of people, or, over 100,000 people. And that was exactly the kind of give the authority to someone who doesn't know our local system, and isn't held accountable to the people here. And so that, do I think they're going to poison us? Of course not. But it's an example where you take the knowledge and you just throw it away. The knowledge that is on our commission, on our UAB, of our GRU employees who have been here. We have great success in keeping people long-term because they're committed to our city. It's not just a paycheck for them. It's their utility. It's our utility. It's not just a paycheck for them. They know what they're doing, partially because they're not just providing electricity, they're also providing drinking water. They know the importance of our entire utility. And we give people voice, not just in the 3 minutes, and in our elections. We even moved our elections to November to give even more voice so that more people would be showing up to vote for the commissioners here. And we have a kind of unique system that every single voter gets to vote for 4 of the 7, the majority of our commission, in the form of a district commissioner, 2 at-larges, and the mayor. So over a 4-year cycle, they get to vote for the entire board of GRU. This new authority, your only option would be, I guess, to vote for the governor. But in the city of Gainesville, I'm almost certain, Mayor, you got more votes
That's probably
than Governor DeSantis and Cynthia Chestnut. You got more votes than Governor DeSantis. I'm sure Reyna Sacco got more votes than Governor DeSantis. In the districts, I don't know, maybe you may have gotten more votes than Governor DeSantis, even though you ran in a district, than Governor DeSantis citywide. And so it is the least representative Democratic form I could possibly imagine that one person is going to go appoint a bunch of people. It's truly kind of ludicrous. But I'll kind of wrap up my thoughts here, in that Commissioner Henson, thank you for mentioning about the representatives and senators need to hear from people, not just you. Mm-hmm. You may be our local champion because you've sat here and you know GRU, but the rest of them also need to hear. And Commissioner Chestnut, thank you for mentioning it. People need to go talk to the governor in all these cities, the 37 cities that have municipal, also the Florida Municipal Electrical Association. They're out there. They represent all these communities. Talk to them. They need to be standing up for the 37. And your friends and family that live in those cities, make it known to them, because Commissioner Chestnut is right. It could affect all of them, because if this kind of bill can just be passed here ideologically, any of those cities, they do something the governor or the legislature kind of doesn't like, and they can just go pluck up all these utilities. And the biggest threat is that eventually that a board would say, let's sell the electric utility. And people claim that this would be some sort of sudden rate decrease. But we have evidence in Florida that this isn't the case. Florida Power and Light bought they got receivership. They bought an entire other utility that they didn't previously own. It's now called Florida Power and Light Northwest. The rates didn't drop. They're going to keep those rates high, most likely, until it makes sense for them internally, and they pay off the local debt from that local here. I doubt some utilities are going to say, oh, we'll just let everyone else in our service area over multiple counties, hundreds of thousands of other people, we'll let them kind of pay the debt down of these GRU, the assets that we're getting and the liabilities. Nope. They're going to continue the same thing we're already on the path of doing, is paying down our debt. We're on that path. We've made bold, dramatic, and drastic actions. They're going to probably keep with that. All it's really going to do, take away all of your ability to impact your utility. And the thing is, you won't even be a shareholder of a company that maybe you buy some shares and get activists together, and maybe you could go to a shareholders meeting and have some impact and push for more renewable energy or push for better contracts with your union labor. You won't even be able to do that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I conclude.
Thank you, Commissioner. So let me add a couple more thoughts, and then I want to hear from you all. I look around the room, and I see in this room folks who live in Gainesville. And by virtue of living in Gainesville, by the way, you're an owner of this utility. You own a piece of this utility if you live in the city limits. even if you don't live in the city limits, you have the capacity to work on a campaign for the board of directors. You have the capacity to make appointments, come down and sit down with us, or just run into us at the checkout line at Publix, or dropping kids off at school, or, and if you worship in the place where you worship, at the park. We just bump into people and they have thoughts and they're not shy about sharing them. And it's our job to listen to those things. You know who we are, and we're available to you as a board of directors. I don't even know who's on the board of directors of FPL or Duke, but you certainly can't go see them. Now, maybe investor-owned utilities have nothing to do with it. Who knows? I don't want to cast that idea out there because it's certainly not any kind of certainty. What we don't talk much about that Commissioner Willits mentioned was the water wastewater utility. We're Floridians. We kind of expect that the power is going to go out every now and then. When the power goes out, for whatever reason, GRU gets it back on faster than any other utility that I'm aware of. We just do. What we don't expect to happen in Florida as Floridians is for the water and the wastewater not to work. When you go turn that tap on at the kitchen sink, you expect the water to come out, and you expect it to be clean and good water. And it is clean, good water in Gainesville. We have never, in more than 100 years of operating this utility, had a boil water notice for the city. Haven't done it. Happens out in Austin, happens in New Orleans, happens in a variety of cities, happens in other cities in this county. Doesn't happen here. Hasn't ever happened here. We got close during the Hurricane Irma, but we figured out how to stop it. We're kind of proud of that. The wastewater facilities are high-tech wastewater facilities, and they work. They work because we invest in it. But even though we invest in those utilities, they're about middle of the pack price-wise. Our water wastewater charges compare very favorably to other water wastewater charges around the state, but nobody talks about that. And shame on us for not having talked about that over the years. Shame on us. We have a natural gas utility that is, if not the cheapest, one of the cheapest rates in Florida for natural gas. Nobody talks about that. Shame on us, again, for not having talked about that over the years. Electric is what gets talked about because electric is the thing that some investors out there might want to get a piece of. They're not interested in water, wastewater. They're interested in electric. So that's what gets talked about. I don't know what the motivations are, but I know what the realities are. I've read the bill. The bill is sloppy. It creates inconsistencies that we don't even know about yet. That worries me a lot. But again, I look around this room and I see people in their 20s. I say people not in their 20s. I see people with PhDs, and I see people who work real hard and probably may not have gotten out of high school. I see people every shade of brown and black and beige and pink. And you're all here giving up your Friday evening because you got something to say about this utility. And you're talking to folks who normally make those decisions. And I want you to keep being able to do that. I don't want that right to be taken away from you. I don't want you to be disenfranchised. And I use that word very specifically. You currently, if you're in the city of Gainesville, you elect this board of directors right now. This bill contemplates taking that franchise away from you. But again, even if you don't live inside the city, you have pretty direct access to the board of directors right now. I don't know if that continues or not. I look around the room, I see regular working folks, people who just came out from their lives to come talk about this. I see people representing organizations like the NAACP. I see the Alachua County Labor Coalition. I see the League of Women Voters. I see Women for Wise Growth. I see the Sierra Club. I could go on and on. I see people who really care about what goes on in this community. This is not about individuals. It's not about egos. It's about can we continue to run this utility, and can you be responsible? Can you continue to be responsible for picking the directors of the utility? With that said, come talk to us. Madam Clerk, who's next? 3 minutes. The green light will tell you you got plenty of time. The yellow light tells you got less than a minute, and red light means I'm going to ask you to wrap it up.
Mr. Mayor, I have David Hastings, followed by Dottie Thaisby and Chris Paganoff.
Very good. Welcome, Mr. Hastings.
Good evening. My name's David Hastings. I live in Gainesville. Here I'm the chair of the political committee of the Swanee St. John Sierra Club. Thank you, Chair Mayer, Vice Chair Fultz. In particular, thank you, Representative Hinson, for the amendments that you proposed that were valiant efforts. I'm exceptionally concerned about Local Bill HB 1645. I'm concerned about it for a variety of reasons that have already been articulated. But it provides, as we know, for the transfer of control of GRU to a state-appointed authority, allegedly because the debt is so high. This legislation is clearly unnecessary. We've already figured out that GRU is highly rated by all three bond agencies, and their bond rating is higher than that of FP&L and Duke. The legislation is aimed at addressing the burdens of the utility debt, but the current version, as it is written, presents a huge amount of uncertainty and the possibility of huge pitfalls. And I think Mayor Ward, you already articulated that bonds that are issued after this new structure will require a particular bond validation proceeding, which could easily fail with this legislation as written. The consequence of that is that this failure will likely render the city of Gainesville without good access to financing. Most of us in the room know the consequences of that, and as a resident of Gainesville, I'm exceptionally concerned with that. But it's not just about bills. Smart lawyers in Tallahassee, in fact, calculated that the average bills for GRU in 2021, the last year for which data was available, were $103 for residential customers, compared to $125 for FP&L and $143 for Duke. This continues to happen now. The bills for Gainesville regional utility customers are lower than FPL, Duke, and TECO. How can this be when rates for GRU are higher? In fact, it's because GRU spends money to increase efficiency and therefore lower usage. What did I just say? I said that GRU spends money to insulate roofs, hands out more efficient light bulbs, which use less electricity, so usage is lower, and so are bills. This is what a public utility does, and what investor-owned utilities don't do. Residents of Gainesville are far better served by a locally controlled utility compared to one controlled by a state-appointed authority with no clear ties to the community. Commissioner Eastman already said that the structure is designed to fail. It is possible and even likely the transferring control of GRU to a state-appointed authority will result in the eventual demise of GRU as we know it, with an investor-owned utility like FP&L taking control. While public power companies like GRU don't have a clear incentive to maximize profit, but FP&L has a commitment to stockholders to maximize profit, which is in fact the dark side. I appreciate all the work that you folks are doing. I'm proud to be a member of this community and look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings.
Hello, Dottie Fabisi, citizen of Gainesville and one of the owners of GRU. First, I want to say thank you so much, Representative Hinson. I appreciate all you do, and thank you for being here. Thank you for scheduling this meeting at 6 p.m. so the delegation could be here, but we have our representative. Thank you. I was pretty worried about this bill before, but after listening to you all now, I'm really scared. I'm really scared, and I do feel like I'm disenfranchised. Please keep up the good work. We really need you. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Pegakoff.
Chris Pagankoff, been here since 1973, graduate of the University of Florida, customer of GRU, owner of GRU for all those years. Everybody has said what is going on here, and I am appalled that our legislative delegation in Tallahassee is doing this to us. So my T-shirt says it all. I won't take up any more time, but I'm strongly in opposition to this. It's bad for Gainesville and bad for our utility customers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have Jay Rosenbeck, followed by Scott Hudson and Tyler Forrest.
Good evening. Oh, you first.
Is your name Jay Rosenbeck?
Y'all can call each other whatever you want. Well, that's not true. Do that outside.
Mayor, Commissioners, UAB members, Representative Hinson. My name is Jay Rosenbeck. I continue to oppose HB 1645, and I want to do it ever more effectively with every hour that passes. Thus, I want to reflect just briefly on the lessons I think I learned from participating in the Local Affairs Committee hearing on Wednesday. First, I fear that many of us play right into Clemens' hand with all the discussion of the bill as the first step in the movement to sell GRTU FPL. Well, maybe that's true. But what it did was it allowed him to quote from the bill and to be righteously indignant that as much as he didn't want to, he had to speak up to respond to all the misinformation he and the committee had been subject to during the public comment section. He effectively could obfuscate and ignore all the data-based arguments against his bill. Therefore, humbly, because I'm as far as you can get from being an elected official, I suggest that all of us focus on the most data-based and least speculative arguments possible. They emphasize the administrative nightmares that will result from losing control of GRU, which is so inextricably linked with other government functions. That we emphasize the potential legal, including constitutional, consequences of this bill. And that we highlight the negative economic consequences of this bill's passage, including report from the Bond Council as outlined by Darren and many others. And that we do this in small, digestible bites in every single way we can to reach as many of the citizens who share our concerns as we possibly can. Now, contemplating our advocacy, of course, is that proponents of HB 1645 were clearly described by the Atlantic writer who wrote of the Republican Party. They consistently displayed dominance, appreciation of dominance over appreciation of principle. We can't abandon our principles, but we can, by golly, make every effort to unite as many members of their constituency in the business, in the religious or faith communities and other places, so that they will at least begin to fear just a little bit that maybe abandoning your principles and emphasizing dominance isn't going to be a win for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenbeck. Well,
Try it again. My name is Scott Hudson. I am a resident of Gainesville.
all right.
I've got 3 minutes. I got 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Back in 1982, I was appointed as an air traffic controller to a place in Traverse City, Michigan, which is northern Michigan. And I moved there and I found out I was on an electric cooperative. The electric co-op had bought into 20% of a Fermi 2 nuclear plant that was bought from Detroit Edison. That would have bankrupted the co-op. There were a total of 8 co-ops. Over 6 years, we amended, thick contract with Detroit Edison to get out of ownership of Fermi 2 plant, which would have bankrupted us. It was a $1 billion, 1982 money. The position that GRU and the city are in right now is very similar. Seems to me what the city and the UAB has done and the citizens is they have met the agreement with the state and the joint legislative body. They're dealing with the debt. You guys are dealing with the debt. We are dealing with the debt. There's still, one of their other main arguments has to do with representation. It seems to me one way you can cut the legs out from under their argument, which might not matter, is to, since the city appoints the representatives on the UAB, currently there are members of the UAB, but they do not have voting rights. Let them have voting rights. And all of a sudden, everybody is, ultimately, it's the city in any case. So it's kind of resolved. Other than that, I think what GRU and the city has done is really great. It's clean energy. It's the general fund transfer is the issue, but you're dealing with that too. So I personally commend you, and these guys in Tallahassee, I doubt they're not here. I doubt that they're going to listen to anything that's said, but at least the argument that you're dealing with the debt, you can deal with the representation, and I mean, you guys you're flexible and you're open-minded, so I really commend you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Welcome, Mr. Forrest.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Representative, thank you for caring enough to actually come here, unlike your colleagues. First, I do want to make a short comment on the state of our democracy here in Florida, because as Representative Henson herself has even been treated by some of these chairs, it's made a mockery of our democracy in Florida. The chairs, not only in our committee, cutting us down to 30 seconds, I've seen in other committees them cut down people to 10 seconds on bills that would totally do away with many local regulations in some of our state's largest counties. So it's clear they do not care what their constituents actually have to say, or they'd listen to them. It's also why the chair of the certain committee made me so aggravated when he thanked people for coming and told them that it really does make a difference. Then he proceeded to vote against all of them. So obviously it didn't make much of a difference to him. But I digress. I also want to point out that Clemens noted that this bill was based on a 2016 bill, which means that he had the bill available in January at the original local delegation hearing that he could have presented it at, and he chose not to. That was his choice that he deliberately did. Somebody should ask him why he did that. So I want to go into the motivations for this real quick, and with less than half my time remaining. In Jacksonville right now, they're having a very heated mayor's race. And one of the top issues that is repeatedly coming up is selling JEA. You might recall that they had what I would term a near-death experience recently with that. That has now led to federal indictments. Their CEO and the CFO are currently in federal indictments, conveniently asking the media not to come into the trial. That's another thing. I'd also point out that the sale of JEA was put up for sale by their board. Right? They have more control over their board than the citizens of Gainesville would have over this board. Not only that, let me pull up the bill here because I know how much our legislature likes citing sections. So I want to make sure I have it right. Here in the bill in 7.03, under the powers and duties, they have the power of eminent domain. They have the ability to authorize and issue bonds. And not only that, it says they have the power to dispose of utility system assets only to the extent and under the conditions that the city commission may dispose of such assets pursuant to section 5.04, which says that it must be put up to a referendum, just like in Jacksonville. This is simply the sale or the stealing of JEA 2.0. And we're seeing it here in GRU. And that's why they won't even put up this referendum to a vote, because they're too afraid to actually let what is happening get out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest.
Mr. Mayor, we have Janice Gary, followed by Rachel Walker, Roberta Guest Mayor, and Ellen Siegel.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Gary.
My name is Janice Gary. As president, I represent the League of Women Voters of Alachua County. The League has closely been following the GRU takeover bill, now numbered HB 1645. On March 17, 2023, with others, I traveled to Tallahassee to participate in the joint legislative delegation meeting. During public comment, which was limited to 1 minute per person, I advised the legislators. As we sit in the comfort of this room, there are USA service members all over the world who are enduring hardship in order to preserve democracy. And yet, here in this room, we are considering tarnishing democracy by dismissing the will of voters and giving the power of a community to a single entity who sits in the governor's mansion. The appointed authority would have no checks or balances. This is not what democracy looks like. The legislators voted, with Representative Hinson in dissent, to move the bill forward. On April 19th, 2023, a group again traveled to Tallahassee to speak to the State Affairs Committee, whose vote would dictate whether the bill will be submitted to the House floor. The public was limited to 30 seconds per person to speak. I stated, after World War II, over 20 million service members did not come home. They died to defend democracy against a power-hungry authoritarian. HB 1645 usurps the will of voters by an authoritarian state government. HB 1645 defies home rule by injecting governor appointees into local governance. It dismisses the will of the voters who rejected a change in GRU governance by 60% in 2018. It bypasses using another referendum to determine the will of the voters now. It was never discussed in the city and county that it will affect, which is against the process of a local bill. It bypasses the ability of local elected officials from working with the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee to address the GRU debt and rates, which are the purported reasons for bringing the bill forward. The vote for this bill was a vote against the principles of democracy that over 20 million service members died for in World War II. The League stands firmly against HB 1645. We encourage the public to go to our website and click on the Action Alert tab and take action to protest the denigration of democracy in Florida and Alachua County. And I am so angry I can hardly stand at this podium.
Thank you, Ms. Gary.
Hi, I'm Rachel. Okay, so I want to start with kind of like addressing a model that we can look at so we don't have so much fear of like, this is so unknown. So the Florida Public Service Commission currently is a commission that regulates investor-owned companies. The bill that we are proposing, it is very similar to the model that they use, being that it is governor appointed. The mission of the Public Service Commission is a competitive market, safety, and service. So, with that being said, it would be reasonable to assume that the governor appointed board would also have a similar mission statement that would be concerned about the safety and service of citizens. Now, that commission currently oversees companies like Duke, Florida Power & Lights, Florida Public Utility, Gulf Power, and TECO. And so all of those companies currently have an average of $165 or less for their customers. So it was mentioned here that our customers are paying $103. So I would love to see bills that support that, because the majority of bills that, if I were to take a sample of, let's say, 10 of our community members and ask them for their bills, are significantly higher, hundreds and hundreds of dollars higher. So So it's reasonable to think that a similar style commission that is governor-based would potentially actually lower rates, considering the ones that he's already governing are 165 or less. Now, in the largest cities of Florida, like St. Pete, Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, there is a fair market. So they average electric companies, the amount of electric companies, for example, St. Pete is 9, Tampa is 14, Jacksonville is 21. So one of the concerns I hear here is like, oh, they may sell. Well, I would think it'd be more reasonable to think like, oh, they're gonna open up competition. And so that is supported by one of our senators opening up competition. And that's supported by all of the other large cities here. Another concern that I hear is that this is like unknown. And so I feel like, you know, if Gainesville is to be progressive and actually grow, then you can never fear the unknown. You can never fear. You can't operate out of that. It lowers the vibration, it lowers the morale of the city. And another concern was that it's not represented the people, but the people are represented considering they compose more than 2/3 of the board.
Thank you.
Good evening, Roberta Gastmeyer. Thank you all for taking time out of your evening to come here, a special meeting. I'm going to reiterate probably what a lot of you said, but I feel like it needs to be said again. Broward County Sheriff, Disney's Reedy Creek, State Attorney Andrew Warren, Broward County School Board, New College. House Bill 1645 is not what is best for the people of Gainesville or the customers of GRU. It's about achieving through brute force what cannot be achieved through normal democratic means. It's about retribution. For some in this community, it's about financial retribution. For others, it's personal. And for our state, it's political. This is about removing control from our local government and concentrating it in the hands of those who want to punish what they call woke policy. I'm opposed to HB 1645 because for me, this is about managing our right to make local decisions that support our local values. It's about protecting the right of local people to implement those values through local elections. As Commissioner Willett said, part of HB 1645 has a clause, limitations on utility directives. Shall consider only pecuniary factors, financial factors, and utility best practice standards which do not include consideration of furtherance of social, political, or ideological interests. So I ask, will GRU be able to continue its programs for low-income homeowners and renters with home improvements that reduce energy use if it reduces GRU's income? Will GRU be able to encourage saving our precious water resources if it reduces GRU's income? Will GRU be able to continue to protect our air and water by upgrading its pollution control standards beyond that required by current regulations? And of course, one of the real intended consequences, will GRU be able to continue to invest in renewable energy? Will these GRU programs and many more that our community has supported be eliminated because perhaps, maybe, they save a few dollars on our GRU bill now, even though it will cost us much, much more in external cost, and even though low-income households will bear the brunt of those decisions? Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Ellen Siegel, and those of you who know me know that my primary purpose in life right now is climate change education, and we have to do something. And I resonated to everything all of you on the dais said, but mostly to you, Commissioner Eastman. I moved to Gainesville as a climate migrant from Miami for all of the reasons people leave Miami, because Gainesville looked like paradise. And part of that paradise was a government that was accessible to a regular citizen. like me. So my concern with this bill is I'm taking it personally. If all politics is local, this feels like my city and my options as a voter in the city are being taken away. So obviously, I am in opposition to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have Donna Waller, followed by Jeffrey Shapiro, and Kwanda Ja, and Angela Castile.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Waller.
Good evening, everybody. I have to confess a bias. 3 biases. I love Gainesville, I love GRU, and I love democracy. I used to tell my students at Santa Fe, right on the syllabus, that my goal as a political science professor was to make them players. Okay, well, we're all players now. And I don't have a lot to add to what's been said, except that I love Gainesville, and I feel very strongly that out of Tallahassee comes the word make Gainesville hurt. And it's happened in big ways and small ways. And if we still had a newspaper, I would be writing a guest column about it, but we don't. One of the suggestions out of what I've heard tonight is that all of us write to city newspapers that do about what's happening here, so that the word gets out in a broader way. Second thing, I love GRU. I've been a resident of this city for 40 years. I especially love the water policy, love GRU, where water is concerned. We are absolutely the most progressive city in the state where water policy is concerned. And to allow local control of that to go to something like this is just plain wrong, just plain wrong. Last, but certainly not least, because I love Gainesville, I've been here for 40 years, I've put a lot of energy into the city, I would say that if all else fails, they are taking my property away without due process of law by doing this. And if that's the next step that we need to take, that's the rallying cry, the 14th Amendment. So there we are, but let's not lose this, please.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all tonight for having us here. Mayor Ward, Chairman Jacobson, and all the rest of you, especially our Representative Hinson. My name is Jeffrey Shapiro, and I'm speaking for myself as a 25-year citizen of Gainesville. I'm retired now from 12 years as a research scientist with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I work with a number of different organizations here in the city, especially the League of Women Voters, where I served for at least 3 years as the local issues chair. So I know a little bit about local issues. I delved into it as chair, and we did a lot of work in that area. I also have worked with the Community Weatherization Coalition, the NAACP, and Kwanda Ja's Environmental Justice Committee. I work with UCG, where we have an environmental task force, a climate task force. And so I know something about what goes on around here. And I echo Donna's love for the city, for GRU, and for our democracy. And I thank our president, Janice Gary, for her expression about democracy, because I really think democracy is being flaunted. What happened Wednesday showed extreme disrespect for our city, our mayor, us as speakers, and especially for the House rules. How can they simply push this through without any observation of any of the rules in their manual for putting forth a local bill? It just astounds me that they do not have to pay any attention to their role in democracy. This is an authoritarian action. It's slapdash, it's ramrod, it's obfuscative. There were lies that were told about what this is all about and about what's happening. Of course, our bond ratings are great. It's amazing. Everything that I've heard from the dais here today shows just what's gone on here in the city. And I have a great deal of pride in our city and what it's done. So I thank you all for standing up against it. I think it's really important that we do, but it's hard work, especially with the media being as it is. The Gainesville Sun is not worth very much anymore. Alachua Chronicle is a good place, for example, where you might write articles. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Nkwanda Ja. I want to speak to you first about how I feel like this process has, for this takeover has been so disrespectful. I want to speak as a resident. I've been a resident of Gainesville for 40 plus years. I've paid utility bills for all that time. And I tried to do the math on this, but my math is like really horrible. But from what I came up with, I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars into, up to $100,000 myself into GRU. That's an investment that I made. And I wasn't asked anything about what's going on now. As a business, I am the director of a nonprofit. We are 43 years old. And of those 43 years, we have paid utilities for over 30 years, which racked up, again, like I said, my math isn't good, but that's tens of thousands of dollars right there. As a member of NAACP, wanting to tell you that we have members in this community that have spent millions of dollars in GRU, and nobody asks us about what's going on now. That's blatant disrespect, as far as I am concerned. As the chair of the NAACP's Environmental and Climate Justice Committee, I spent a lot of time talking to GRU about moving to 100% clean energy. And I don't want to lose all of that energy on that, just to take it away after I feel like we have made so much progress with GRU to get them to understand that we have to go for 100% clean energy, not cleaner energy. I tell my committee members that we should fight from the front, not from the rear. I don't think that we should spend time on what we know is already going to happen, as Representative Henson has said. Let's don't spend energy with that. Let's spend some energy on what we can do, what might be good for us. As my comrade and good friend Jason put out some real good suggestions to you. And Mr. Rosenbeck, Jay Rosenbeck, he gave you some suggestions too. So let's move on those kinds of issues and don't spend our time fighting where we know we're going to lose. And lastly, okay, they had meetings in Tallahassee through the week that they knew a lot of us who work, who have to work, couldn't get there. Now, I want to ask you all from here in Gainesville, the City of Gainesville Commissioners, could you include us in this discussion going forward? You have brilliant people, gifted people right here in this community that you, if you listen to them, could learn a lot. And we're here to support you. We're not your enemy. We all trying to fight for the right to have our own utilities. So let's work it together, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Castillo.
If I can have the overhead, please. This was a petition, 3,149 signatures to lower GRU rates. This was the start of my fight. Why? Because the GRU rates were exponentially high. Ms. Henson is supposed to be my representative in my community, who happens to be a very poor community. Instead, she's representing the elite clubs or organizations. This bill right here, line 91, Tyler Forrest had already read it to you.
It's the one where
Mr. Forrest, please.
It asks that there is a referendum, not in those specific words, but it refers back to your Section 504, Article 5, which refers to a referendum to be able to sell any of the assets of the utility. Therefore, what you guys continue to say is that they're going to sell the utility. You can't sell the utility without that referendum. As well, you guys have chosen to raise the rates through 2027. Am I wrong? No, I don't think so. It's in your Appendix A of your municipal code. Also, please explain what was slanderous. I'm pushing for this bill. I'm not quiet about that. And I've already explained that Representative Henson is supposed to be my representative, not just my representative, but the community surrounding my community. And addressing these 30 seconds that everybody is complaining about, need I remind you that 1355, they only got 30 seconds because there was 106 of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. Hey, wait, hold on. We don't do that. Not in this forum. I would say that I wish my representative were here to listen. Representative Henson, you want to take just a quick moment there, and then we'll go back to public comment.
Thank you. I'm so sorry you're so angry. However, I am your representative. I'm everybody's representative, but I still have my own opinions. I'm upset that your rates are high. I am. I don't think that's merit to sell or give up a utility that's 100 years owned by the people. I do want to tell you two facts. I met with Representative Clemens. Actually, he's Speaker Pro Tem Clemens for me. And two things I remember from that meeting. I went to him asking if we can unify our community. Let's work together to create a bill. This is weeks ago. Let's work together to create a bill that we can take back to our community and make our community one. And we could not make peace on that. two things that left me pretty scared. And I know we're not supposed to be speculating, but they left me scared. And I'm only talking about me. One, can this board sell, or can we make sure this board can't sell the utility? He said this board can do whatever it wants. It will be the authority. Two, I said, I remember when I first became a commissioner, an independent board sold Alachua General Hospital to the University of Florida for $1. He said, I know that exactly because I participated. I'm the reason they had an independent board. Now, that don't scare the bahoochie out of you. Number two, I said, why would you do that to your own community? And he said they were going bankrupt. I said, ooh, that sounds like the same messaging. Thank you very much. I'm giving you details and facts. This ain't slander. This actually happened. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to share that with her.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we have Donald Shepard, followed by Sarah Younger, Evelyn Fox, and Stacy Greco.
Welcome, Mr. Shepard.
My name's Donald Shepard. I know a lot of you might not know me, but I've been for 14 years trying to represent the city and represent our...
Mr. Shepard, I think we all know you. Yeah, we're glad
I
you're
don't
here.
know.
Thank
I
you
don't know
for
who
being
in here knows me, sir. That's why
I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Okay. I know Miss Rawls since for years.
I'm Henson. I let you say Rawls. Go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. But I have a different outlook on it. And my outlook is that they know they did wrong in the utilities. They know they did wrong in our city. And some people are looking the other way. They're looking like, no, we're not involved for this happening. Yes, you are. Look at the bills of this city. This is on your back. This here has been on the backs of commissioners and mayors for years. I've been doing this for 14 years, riding my bike here and driving here, and sometimes I go home in tears because of what is going on. When you have people annexed out of their homes, when you have people that are moved out of their apartments and their belongings, or moved out on the street, we're here only 2 blocks away. That happened to a gentleman that is 90 years old. And where's the outlook of that? Was it in the paper? No. A lot of things get done in this city that is not of our city. I wear this shirt in pride because occupying Gainesville is what we need to have happen. But yet our businesses are gone. And they're going to continue going because here we have Rawls, the business out here on 13th Street, going to be bulldozed down, and all the businesses within that plaza is going to be gone because of the whole building being destroyed. Graveyard being questioned about what is going to stay and not. And then they had a fire there in the same place where this construction was going to go on. This is something we need to take in, as voters. We need to take real outlook of it. It don't matter if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. You need to look at what is going on in your city and make a decision of what can we do to make it better. And that's what I have, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shepard.
And I'm a Republican.
Good day. Thank you all for making time for us to come and speak with you here in the city of Gainesville. My name is Sarah Younger. I'm not a resident of Gainesville. I live north of the city in northwest Alachua County. And you might wonder, why am I here? Well, I also represent the Sewanee St. John's Group, Sierra Club. But also, most importantly, I am a homeowner in the northwest part of the county, and what happens in Gainesville impacts my life as well. And I want to let you know that city residents are not the only ones concerned about this takeover. The county obviously has a lot of care and concern for the same elements that you talked about here today, about local control, about water, about our air quality. I mean, water and air knows no bounds. It passes through our county very freely. And I'm also an implant from South Florida. I was a customer of FPL. I went to a few of those rate hearings. And I've got to tell you, if you think people think they have a voice at those rate hearings, you're lucky if you even get time to speak. They pack the room with all their own people. So it's a farce to think that we have an influence over an investor-owned utility. Also, I wanted to ask, I saw in the bill that there are dates given. I'm a little confused by these dates, as it comes into power on the July 1st, yet the board is not actually empowered until October. That's the height of our hurricane season. What do we do with, God forbid, we're left without a person in charge during a terrible disaster? I'm very concerned about how the management of this utility gets transitioned as a result of the changes that are being proposed. I don't think it was well thought out, as you say. I also know that the Bond Council has given some indication that people could see changes quite dramatically, quite quickly with a transition like this. And I understand utility costs are not always contained. You cannot always manage fuel costs and the like, but we've got to move to 100% renewable by 2045 as the city had signed on. I really hope that that doesn't get lost. Our future relies on us getting off fossil fuels, and management at the utility was not always aligned with that. So the fact that we can move to 100% renewable is a very real problem if we can't do that in time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Evelyn Box, followed by Stacy Greco.
Welcome, Ms. Fox.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. And to my state representative, Yvonne Henson, thank you so very much for everything that you do. And on a personal note, I do pray for you constantly because I know the stress that you're under. Mr. Mayor, Kwanda, who is the chair of the NAACP ECJ committee, and some of her members have already spoken, but I think I need to say something as a citizen and as I'm a part owner of GRU. This House Bill 1665 is really upsetting to me. And I think that most of the people in our city does not know the ramification of this bill. There has to be some way. We have to get the word out so people can be educated and know what could possibly happen. We don't want them to wait. We don't need to let them wait, and I'm including me, until after everything's happened. But I have faith that this bill will not pass, you guys. I really don't think it's going to pass. There has to be some way, somehow, legally, if we have to spend more city dollars, that we can save our utility company. Now, I speak with the mayor quite often, and I spoke with him last week, the day before he was going to Tallahassee. So I did call my senator, Keith Perry, and I said, Senator Perry, Keith rather, I have never called you and asked you to do anything for me personally, but I'm asking you personally, please talk to your colleague, Mr. Clemens, and ask him to modify the bill. He said, why would I want to do that? He said those people, and I guess he's talking about the former mayor and commissioners, all they want is climate change and clean energy. And when he said that, I just listened. I said, well, this is what it's all about. I think it's just, they're just upset that we focus so much on what we should be, which is clean energy, clean water, clean air. But they're angry about that. So I don't know what to say, but the NAACP does support you guys, and we will do everything within our power, including having a mass meeting with our community. So people will know, my people will know the seriousness of what can happen to us. We don't want what happened to Alachua General to happen to GRU. So it's going to be up to us, Commissioner Cynthia and Representative Henson. I'm talking about our community and our people. We have to get them fired up and ready to fight to save what's rightfully ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Greco.
Thank you all for your service. I'm Stacy Greco here as a GRU customer and a resident. And I'm here because tomorrow's Earth Day. And I was just about to get snuggled up with the new book, saw the mayor's post, and felt it was my duty to come here today because I think GRU is a great utility. I'm a board member on the Community Weatherization, the CWC board. And, you know, I think if the Tallahassee takes over our utility, programs like that help our people that are having a really hard time with their utility bills, and all of our efforts for climate change and, you know, our great water programs, all of those things are at risk, and just felt it was my civic duty to just come and, you know, lend my voice in saying that I hope we can keep local control of GRU. So thank you all for your service, and thank you everyone that's here tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have Kathleen Pagan, followed by Moshka Pagano. Kathleen Pagano, followed by Moshka Now, our final speaker.
Okay. Welcome, Ms. Pagan.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Pagan. A former coworker early in my career used to say, you can call me anything, but don't call me late for dinner. I know you probably missed your dinner so far. I was late because I had dinner with my family. That same coworker said, one question in management is who pays the bill. And one reason I came tonight, I read an article online written by Mark Woods from the Florida Times-Union about the governor's fight with Disney. The lawyer for the governor is being paid $795 an hour. And that is just incorrigible, unbelievable. So I agree we need to convince all of our citizens and people in other parts of Florida the merits of GRU. Innovation. I think GRU worked with the city to build the Sweetwater Wetlands Park, which brings birders from probably hundreds of miles away. It's a major tourism destination. The work ethic, you're all here tonight, but some weeks ago we had a wind emergency. A tree branch took down a power pole on Northwest 6th Street. That impacted my neighborhood. I was working remotely about 3:30, the power cut. Some people were there working until after 2 a.m. That's when the last neighbor, the latest reconnection that I'm aware of happened. I share the concern about storm season. I'm here speaking only as a citizen and a GRU customer, but as a county staff person, I was in the emergency shelter at Eastside High during Hurricane Irma. There are research studies that the speed at which communities can be restored, of course, you know, it's obvious it has so much impact on the recovery process. The community here needs power. our local workers, local control, that will happen more quickly. And I guess one question I have, the threat of losing assets, the power district, isn't a lot of that property, GRU property, and that's such a possible opportunity for the city. I grew up in St. Petersburg. I was just there over the weekend visiting, and the redevelopment of St. Petersburg, and now their bus rapid transit, they have a free fare system that goes from downtown to the beach. So I thank GRU, I thank the city for the free fare. I'm of an age where I can ride, but I do like to ride my bike. I'm all about solar energy, so thanks very much.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan.
Mashka now, followed by Gail Stallings, which is our final speaker.
Thank you. Welcome.
Greetings, commissioners, representatives, GRU advisory board members. Thank you for this meeting, and especially thank you to Yvonne Henson, because I feel that you have been one of the most outspoken about this, and I have called legislators numerous times now, and Yvonne Henson and Bartleman were the only two that gave me the time of day. Our GRU bills are already astronomical, and many Gainesville residents are forced to choose between eating or paying GRU bills. And at the same time, GRU helps to fund and support so many of Alachua County's awesome, amazing nonprofits and social services that do help our community. I am very concerned what will happen to these programs. For example, the Community Weatherization Coalition, which provides free home energy tune-ups and free energy home grades in order to lower utility costs. We cannot allow Governor Meatball Dictator to take over GRU or to take over Alachua County. We must seek legal representation and stop this bill at a litigation level with empowered litigators and legislators who can stop House Bill 1645. We, the people, have called, we've emailed, we've shown up in person to our legislators, we've mobilized our communities to take action on opposing HB 1645. However, the GOP is not listening. We all know that a similar bill was voted on in 2018 in an attempt to take over GRU, and the bill was shot down by the people and GRU was saved. It is time to transition to clean renewable energy, lower energy costs for everyone, and to help our planet. I want to see us walk away from this meeting with a very strategic plan in place to have House Bill 1645 vetoed. I want to see us continue to mobilize, and we need you as the legislators and board members to help us, and that we're able to preserve GRU and help educate other Floridians on how to preserve their local utilities. I've had so many people tell me, oh, I don't live in Alachua County. Well, I said, next they're going to come for you. It's time for clean air, clean energy, clean water for all. And now a closing quote from Margaret Mead: never doubt that a small group of committed, thoughtful citizens can change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. And never depend on institutions or governments to solve any problem. All social movements are funded by, guided by, motivated, and seen through by the passion of individuals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Gail Stallings, and I want to thank you all, commissioners, representative, and mayor, for the detailed study that you have made on this proposed bill, and that you brought it to us, attempted to work with the other side to come to an agreement and have them here to discuss it with us. The fact they're not here tells us what their level of transparency is and what we could expect in the future. I wasn't really prepared to speak, and so I wrote things out here. It's less than 3 minutes. Our Commonwealth, including resources such as energy, is for the common good. And this is true whether the governor takes it over, whether it's sold to FP&L or somebody else. It's still our resources, and it is for our common good. And if this exchange happens, it won't be for our common good anymore. It will be for somebody else's profit. And we will not have transparency. GRU belongs to the people. It's accountable to all of us. GRU takeover with private partisan board or private independent board, and possible sale to a private corporation removes our commonwealth for their profit and harms us all. It's no accountability. The public, which is the government, which is us, and its appointed and elected officials have a moral duty to protect and empower the people they serve. The public has already said no on this. So I support you in opposing this measure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's all?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right. Thank you all for speaking. We have some more lights up here to hear from, and then we'll, when everybody up here has spoken, I will make one more pass and see if anybody else out here has who hasn't spoken wants to add anything to this. I got a great idea from some of this while y'all were speaking. A thing that I'm going to work on this weekend is writing an editorial that I love the Gainesville Sun. I love the Gainesville Sun. I miss being able to publish in the Gainesville Sun in the op-ed section. Some papers, not a lot, but some papers in Florida continue to offer that opportunity, and I'm going to reach out to each one of the papers that do, that have a municipal utility in their community, and offer them an op-ed. You might consider doing the same. I love the idea of an NAACP mass meeting. Time is tight for both letter writings and meetings. The legislative session ends on May 5th?
Yes.
Okay. The House vote, I'm sure, will happen prior to that, and then there'll be a Senate opportunity within the last few days of the session. And of course, the governor will get to it when he gets to it, should it go that far. Just trying to put the timing out there. All right. Commissioner Eastman.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to some of the things that I heard. Mr. Rosenbeck, I agree with you. I don't like being speculative about, intentions, things like that. And I really tried to start off with this with good intentions and assuming good intentions until proven wrong. I will say, and Tyler Forrest mentioned this earlier, the one thing that has always made me question all of this is if no one has taken the time to review what happened with the Jacksonville Electric Authority back in 2019, just even reading articles, you don't have to go through this gigantic investigation that was done by the city of Jacksonville, but it'll make your blood run cold with how similar it is to what we are seeing here. It starts off with a discussion about a financial death spiral that was coming from various folks in Jacksonville without any evidence behind it. AstroTurf groups were put up in order to make it seem as though there was community support to selling the utility. In fact, at one point there was a joint legislative auditing committee, a report that was supposed to come out that was supposed to kick the whole thing off in order to move it forward. It ends up being that it was all funded by Florida Power and Light through third-party consulting firms that followed journalists around to dig up dirt on them, payoffs to politicians. They are supposed to be before a court in October. Aaron Zahn, the former CEO of Jacksonville Electric Authority. It is, I honestly felt cold 24 hours after reading it, realizing that we were, in my feeling, that we were probably in much deeper waters than I originally thought. I also wanted to point out, someone mentioned the Florida Public Service Commission and their oversight, and I did want to point out that they do have oversight of Gainesville Region Utilities. At least in some ways, they do what is called a determination of need when we come out with new power plants, and they did actually approve the biomass plant, which was a big part of why we're in there. In fact, the same person who seconded the motion for that is the person who created the economic impact statement certifying that this was also good for our utility, this GRU takeover bill. So I will say that they do have oversight, and a lot of, and while no one up here did vote for any of the things that got us into the situation we were in, a number of people that were on the Florida Public Service Commission are in favor of this bill and are helping Chuck Clemens draft that. And so I wanted to just point out the irony of that. But I would encourage everyone to look at what happened in Jacksonville and to see, because I don't want to guess at intentions or why anyone would be doing it, but I do think that we shouldn't be naive as to what would be happening here. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Willetts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of people up here have probably lived in Gainesville. I think everyone here has lived in Gainesville longer than I have.
Me and Commissioner Eastman kind of moved roughly at the same time. So there's probably a lot of good memories and knowledge about Representative Henson's service to the community. So I'm not perhaps the newest. I just got to sing some praises and put some respect on Representative Henson's name. Representative Henson, Commissioner Henson, 3rd Congressional District Democratic nominee Henson, UF Black Alumni Association President Henson, and currently our representative. And even, talking about democracy and accountability, Representative Henson actually lost a re-election bid to this body once, and still came back and figured out how she could serve the people. So she's been held accountable. As an example, that Commissioner Chestnut once lost an election where, so like the essence of having been held accountable and still continue to serve the community. I hope that if I lose re-election someday, I will still serve the community, and even after I'm on this body. I do want to mention that something that people may not know, GRU customers' bills are public information. You can ask for any address in the city and get an electric bill, all the bill, but particularly people want to talk about electric. You can go to the GRU's website and there's a public request information. You can go do that. I used it extensively as I was looking to rent and to buy a place. But even quicker and easier, it doesn't have all the data, but Gainesville-green.com. That is not a website for buying certain agricultural products that may be called Gainesville Green. Gainesville-Green is a great web portal where you can look up the utility usage at not all of the addresses, because some apartments they're a little different, but even lots of townhouses, lots of apartments. Go look yourself up. Go look up where you're thinking about buying or renting. That kind of public information is something I hadn't thought of. I don't know that this new authority, some things this legislature has done is they don't act in the sunshine. So I don't know if that data is going to stay public forever, but check out Gainesville-green.com. I can go on, but I want to leave with one thing. We are a democratic body in the city of Gainesville, and the GRU's leadership is elected democratically. And beyond just you can vote, you can communicate. And if you don't think that democracy through voting or democracy through advocacy doesn't work, I want you, as you leave tonight, to walk out of this building and walk down to the corner of Southeast 1st Avenue and Southeast 1st Street and to the second tree in front of Harry's and go look up under the canopy or give it a hug or lean on it. Please be careful, there are some bricks out of place. But the people in Gainesville, through their democratic elected officials, but then also through their advocacy, absolutely changed a little piece of the world by getting us to reconsider something and to go after a pool of money that we're going to have to work, we're going to have to do some innovation and some rejiggering to go use that pool of money to help save some great canopy oak trees. But one of the reasons we can even touch that money and that it hasn't been spent on a million other things or tried to be spent on a million other things is because our general fund transfer has helped us achieve a lot of the other core services and just goals of our city. And it's interesting that this is all coming together right now, just in the history of what we're doing. So my last thing I want to leave people with is that democracy does work. It doesn't always work the way you exactly want it. Commissioner Henson is up there in Tallahassee on the losing end of so much, but she goes there to speak truth to power, to represent all of us, absolutely to represent the least of us. Her commitment through special education tells us that she's absolutely committed to the least of us, the least of our neighbors. So thank you for being here, Representative Henson. Thank you for all the work you do that you've always done, but particularly for being here because you are part of Gainesville. We welcome you back up to this dais. So thank you for being here. Thank everyone here for being here. Thank you for the communication through email. Thank you for even the nasty emails from some people. It's okay. You're emotional. I'm emotional. But thank you, because it proves that this is a democratic body. GRU is a democratic organization in essence, and it's something we should keep for the people of Gainesville. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, number 9 down there, I think that's probably Mr. Foltz, but I could be wrong. Yeah, okay.
So I was inspired by what you said at the beginning, Representative Hinson, about they may be listening, they may be watching. They are. Good. So, and I want to echo what Commissioner Chestnut said then, in hopes that they are listening. If you honestly believe, Senator Perry and Representative Clemens, if you truly believe that what you are doing is on the side of the people, and what you are proposing would pass muster of people in this community, then it's very simple. As Commissioner Chestnut said in the very beginning, put it to a referendum. I don't care if you put it to a referendum of the city of Gainesville. I don't care if you put it to a referendum of every GRU customer. But answer 2 simple questions. 1, how will this board be appointed or elected? And 2, what specifically will their powers be? Answer those 2 questions, put it before us, and let us decide if you honestly think that you're representing the opinions in this community. I think you know that you're not. I think you know that the people in this community are on the side of what has been said tonight. And that's why you're running scared and you won't put this on a referendum, because you're being cowardly. So I think the people are on our side on this. And I don't think that the end of session is the end of this fight. I think the end of session is the beginning of this fight. And so given those 2 points, I want to strongly urge our commission, because that's what our UAB does, is we advise our commission to use any and all communication channels at your disposal to communicate and engage folks in this community on this issue ASAP. I think there should be mailers in the GRU bills. I think the city should be communicating this to citizens in every way it possibly can. And like Ms. Jaw said tonight, finding as many ways as we can to engage people in this community in this fight. Because this is not the end of this, this is the beginning. So thank you very much for having this meeting tonight. And again, Representative Hinson, thank you so much for what you've been doing.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I want to say thank you for hosting us this evening, and for all the people coming out and speaking. I apologize. I just got caught up on reading the bill today, and I have to say that I'm really appalled. It's wow, really wow. Without getting into the weeds of it, it really just seems like a power grab to me, which I think is illustrative of what's already been going on in other places. If I'm reading it correctly, it gives this utility authority the ability to modify the city charter and provisions and ordinances. I don't see how any of this is legal beyond being democratic. And because GRU is so linked with the city and the city finances and the services and the quality of life here, I really fear that if this goes through, people are going to come in and maybe giving them the benefit of the doubt that their intentions are good. Still, the things that I have come to know and love about my home are going to be destroyed. I mean, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but after reading the bill, I'm a lot more concerned than I was. And I hope that the people in the community are concerned. I truly hope, barring working this out through the democratic process, I truly hope there are legal actions that can be taken if this goes through, because the people have been cut out from the process, and I don't think they have any intention of bringing people into the process. So that's really all I wanted to say. I don't know how much longer we're going to be here. UAB member Paul has been sitting in the audience, and I would be happy to give up my seat if he has anything he'd like to say. He's actually very knowledgeable about utility administration. But thank you again for having us tonight, and I hope something comes out of this.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. I really appreciate that. And I'll echo that it's not about the people. It's about the bill. It's about the language of the bill that I don't think that it does what people think that it does. I don't think it does what the people who wrote it think that yeah. All right, we have more lights up here, so I'm not sure which person. Okay. All right. Mr. Crowe. Yes.
Yeah, my name is Butch Crowe on the UAB. I'm not going to reiterate all these fine things that have been said all night long, but I've got a real simple question. We haven't had a copy of the bill that Representative Henson has filed. I'd like to ask Barry Jacobson to work with the administration to distribute that bill so we all can take a look at it and compare it with the bill that was filed originally.
Did you mean the strikeout amendment that the constituents wrote? Or do you mean the amendments that I wrote? It's just two changes.
Well, your amendment, whatever is something that we can suggest and compare with.
I can leave both.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So did you want to make comments? Okay, fair enough, all right. We've heard from a lot of folks tonight. If anybody else from the public that hasn't spoken wants to make a comment, this is the time. I would again urge you to speak your mind to your representatives, your senators, and others, to reach out to, as Commissioner Chestnut said, to your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your old friends, anybody you know. Reach out to them, let them know what's going on here. And I would urge you again to focus on the reality that this thing is a mess. And chaos should frighten you. You need the light to come on when you walk in the room and flip the switch. You need the toilet to flush and things to go away when you're done. You need that gas stove to turn on when you turn the dial. Those are services that we offer through our utilities. You need the flow of funds to work correctly on the back end. And if it doesn't work right, you need to be able to come talk to the people that you elected to be in charge of it. And if we don't listen, you need to be able to fire them. And Lord knows you have in the past. You need that option. That's what you ought to be telling people. That's what you ought to be telling people. We do have somebody down here at the other end, and we have at least one more.
Hi, Teresa Sperlingwood. I would just offer that if you guys haven't been watching the Florida channel with Politics in Action, you need to start watching it. It is amazing what is going on, what is passing, what is running through. So I have been watching it and have been amazed at how fast things are. People come up to talk about any subject across the state. They're pretty well disregarded. People have their opinions and the vote goes, no, 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 we're out. And if you guys aren't watching that channel and observing what is going on, you're missing the big picture. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And we have another public comment. Is that accurate?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Bobby Murmur.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll be very, very brief here because I know everybody wants to get home. Really bad, these mics. So I just wanted to reiterate something that Commissioner Chestnut mentioned earlier, that we all, everybody in the audience, everybody who's an ally of GRU, everybody on this dais, really needs to be reaching out to all their friends and family in cities that also have municipal electric utilities in the state, asking them to call and write their state legislators. At the ACLC, me and 3 of my colleagues have just this past week sent emails to every city commissioner in every city except Gainesville that has an electric utility, and so far we've asked them to call their state senator and state representative asking them to oppose this bill and also to pass resolutions in opposition to this bill. And we've already gotten very good feedback so far out of Key West, Fort Pierce, Tallahassee, and I'm sorry, I forget the fourth city, but we are running out of time. And, you know, Gainesville, we're small, we're mighty,
But even if you think of all of Alachua County, we're 1% of the population of the state. If we are going to make a difference, we need to make friends across the state now. Now is the time to expand the scope of conflict, similar to how Chuck Clemens has tried to expand it, via this bill to the governor. So I just want to reiterate that, Commissioner Chestnut, that's a great, great point. So I hope everybody goes home and does that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Chestnut.
Thank you. I'm just reminded of something thank you, Dr. Marma, something that I heard, and that is that the strategy for Representative Clemens is to have the governor sign this bill as soon as it passes. So that means it's going to be signed in May. Generally, you expect the governor to sign his up until June 30th. You expect him to do it later, but that is the reason that we really need to get to people across the state to help us.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have about talked it out. No other comment cards, or do you have one?
No, Mr. Mayor. I have one question,
Yes.
though. There was one speaker who wanted to go again, but I don't think that.
We've normally that's not our practice. Okay. But I do want to I want to thank everybody who was here, whether you spoke or not. I want to thank the folks who opposed the popular opinion. That's hard. It is really hard to be in a room full of people who believe one thing and stand up and say the other thing. So thank you for doing that. We get a lot of opposition, a lot of both sides in this room. Gainesville ain't shy. People are happy to express their opinions here or in our offices or in writing. And I appreciate that. And I want that spirit to continue to exist. And I appreciate, once again, the Utility Advisory Board for coming tonight, for suggesting this. It was a terrific idea, and I'm glad we were able to get it done. Representative Henson, I'd love to hear from you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And I hope you will take the liberty to reach out to the constituent that was here with some dissent, because clearly she needs to have her issues addressed. Whatever they are, they need to be resolved as best as possible. I also want to remind you that the best offense is done in quiet.
That's right.
I know this is a publicized meeting and it has to be publicly noticed, but whatever strategies that evolve based on someone's recommendation, there should be a strategy. It should not be publicized. I'm just saying. Thank you so much for inviting me. I thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate being a part of this discussion.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, y'all. Go do good work. We are adjourned.